hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days.
Good morning. Welcome to AHNC, All Hat No Cattle. I missed it the first time. Am Hat, and I appreciate you being here. We'll have a lively chat, I assume, as always, with my executive producer, Picasso Knows, leading the way. And we have an assortment of regulars who like to come by and keep things happening as well. If this is your first time here, welcome. A little bit about the channel. I started it, I'm still a little sleepy. I started it 2 years ago, back in this August. And at first, I was pretty much all over the map. Some politics, some humor, eclectic stuff. And for a while, I settled in on women's health and the obesity crisis. Did a lot on that. Then I started burning out a little bit, and I got sick, had to take some time off, and now I've been reborn as a transcript reader. I know it doesn't sound all that fun, but when we get into this, you'll see. I have my moments. So what transcript are we talking about today?
Sweeney, you're not on.
I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days.
And good morning. Welcome to AHNC, All Hat No Cattle. I am Hat. Today on the show, we're going to be reading the executive session testimony in front of the Committee on the Judiciary, I hate that word, and the Government Reform and Oversight Committee of the House of Representatives in the U.S., D.C., by one William Sweeney. Now, this handsome devil was at one time the director of the New York field office for the FBI. Why is that significant? I'm sorry, he was the assistant director in charge when this was done back in September of 2018. He may have been promoted since then. Anyway, dry mouth as always. William Sweeney was in charge of a few things while he was assistant director at the NYFO. And one of them was the Wiener laptop debacle. Some of you may remember, some may not, so I'll briefly recap it. Anthony Weiner is the now disgraced former, I believe he was a representative, doesn't matter. He was a U.S. congressperson who was convicted of sending lewd messages back and forth with a young woman below the age of consent. Sexting, basically. There goes my monetization. And his laptop was being reviewed by the NYFO for any incriminating emails. While they were looking at them, they came across some cross-referenced emails from Hillary Clinton to Uma Abedin and back, and some ancillary players involved as well. So the NYFO got a hold of the FBI in Washington, D.C., the executive offices, that were running the mid-year exam investigation into Hillary's email service. And the NYFO said, hey, we got the stuff. You guys need to get up here, grab an image of this laptop, get a search warrant, and look at it. The FBI in New York couldn't look at it because their search warrant did not cover those emails. It was very specific. The FBI waited a month. The executive offices waited a month before someone finally from the NYFO called the FBI and said, hey, if you guys don't get off your butts and get up here and get an image of this laptop, we're going to go to the press and tell them that you're slow rolling it, which they were. That finally prompted Peter Strzok to get off his horse and have two people go up to New York, get the image, get a search warrant in probably near record time. And they searched that laptop with thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of emails. And were able to find, I think, one or two, no more than three certainly, confidential emails on the whole thing. So they let it drop. The only problem is, since that sloppy preview, we've since learned that there are a number of confidential and higher up in emails on that laptop. Didn't look good for Hillary. So William Sweeney was in the middle of this firestorm, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. I'm assuming you do too, so let's get into it. This interview was done Friday, September 28th of 2018, and it was held in room 2237 of the Rayburn office building. We've usually been in room 2214. Interesting. Or not. Now, a lot of what goes off in the beginning of these transcripts is pure boilerplate. Things like the rules that they'll be following, that things are to remain confidential, even outside of the chamber when they're done, things like that. I've read them so often, I'm sure many of you know them by heart. So I will be not reading that. I will not be reading that. I will pause along as I go, paging down the text, letting you pause if you need to read it on your own. Those of you who are listening, this won't take very long. And again, if you've listened to any of my transcripts over the last month or two, you already know what's coming, so it won't be a surprise. Okay, so a Mr. Summers introduces himself to Mr. Sweeney. And let's get into the introductions. Sweeney. My name is William F. Sweeney, Jr. Position is Assistant Director in Charge, FBI, New York Field Office. Thank you, says Summers. Now they're going to start introducing everybody else. Arthur Baker, Investigative Counsel, House Judiciary Committee, Majority Staff. Great interviewer, Baker is. Breitenbach, too. Ryan Breitenbach, Senior Counsel, House Majority, Judiciary. Steve Castor with the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, Majority. Zoe Lofgren, Democrat from California. I don't know if that's Zoe or Zoe, so I'm going to go with Zoe for now because there's no accent. Mr. Redacted, Special Counsel, Office on Correctional Affairs, FBI. Ms. Redacted, Attorney with the Office of General Counsel, FBI. Ms. Redacted, OGC, FBI. These and other FBI redactions that you'll see may not be for nefarious purposes. Anyone who's a GS-15 or lower on the FBI ranks, otherwise known as a non-SES employee, Special Employment Service, anyone who's basically on the government GS payroll will not be named in these proceedings or any other proceedings. That's the FBI's code. If you're not SES, if you're GS-15 or lower, they will not name you. So there's that. I should not have said non-SES. That's not necessarily... It doesn't matter. Okay, so Aaron Hiller, Counsel for House Judiciary. Janet Kim, Oversight, Minority. Kim can drive you nuts. I'll tell you that right now. Aria Haraharan, never can I pronounce her name. She's Ms. H from now on. I've seen her name spelled with a Y before. First time I've seen it spelled with an I. Interesting. So she's Counsel Judiciary Minority. Mr. Redacted, FBI, Congressional Affairs. Mr. Buttaraju, Anudeep Buttaraju, House Oversight, Mr. Gowdy's staff. Mr. Brebbia, Sean Brebbia, OGR, Majority. Valerie Shen, House Oversight Committee, Minority Staff. Saxman Grooms, Susan, House Oversight, Democrat. Summers says thanks after the introductions. They go over the format. There will be a short break at the end of each hour of questioning. Answers can be declined if so desired, especially if counsel tells you not to answer the questions, but they will consider a subpoena if that's the case. But they are here voluntarily. Sweeney is here voluntarily for now. Okay, official court reporter. And now they're going to introduce the counsel for the FBI, because anyone who's with the FBI is going to have FBI counsel. So we've got Ms. Redacted, Acting Deputy Attorney General for the Office of General Counsel, FBI. That does not sound like a GS-15 or lower position, by the way. So it could be something else going on there. Mr. Summers, basically tell us the truth. You understand that this interview is not under oath, but you are required by law to answer questions from Congress truthfully. Sweeney understands that. That applies to questions posed by congressional staff in an interview. Do you understand that? Yes. About false testimony, and you would be convicted of perjury. Could be. Prosecuted anyway. Is there any reason you are unable to provide truthful answers to today's questions? Mr. Sweeney, no. And then the part about confidentiality. Sweeney doesn't have any questions, so they'll get started with the questioning. So this is Mr. Arthur Baker. I'll just call him Baker. Good morning, Mr. Sweeney. I know you indicated in your introduction you're from the New York field office. I know that, too, be one of the busiest, if not the busiest, office in the FBI. So we do appreciate you taking the time out from your responsibilities there and coming down and participating in this interview. Let me interject real quickly. This interview is 114 pages long, the shortest interview we've had to date. And I don't foresee either of the next two being anywhere that short. So this will be a real quick one, folks. As we have, back to Baker, as we have interviewed witnesses in our investigation and had the occasion to review various documentation that we've received, we've had various folks from the FBI with different titles, including Executive Assistant Director and just plain Assistant Director. You come with the title Assistant Director in Charge. Could you elaborate a little bit more about what that is and what that implies? Sure, I think. So, Assistant Director. There are 3 Assistant Director in Charges: Los Angeles, Washington Field Office, and New York. The Assistant Directors at headquarters have the title of just Assistant Director. My presumption is that the in charge part of that title came from the fact that they were in charge of a field office. So around the country, obviously, we have special agents in charge of field offices, and the 3 largest field offices have an assistant director with multiple special agents in charge underneath them. So not only are you from one of the busiest field offices, you are in charge of one of the busiest field offices. Excuse me. Correct. And with that title, the responsibility falls on you for everything that happens in that field office. Correct. Every violation of criminal law, every violation of national security law, every personnel matter, everything that happens in the field office ultimately falls to you with guidance and concurrence from headquarters. Correct. Okay? How long have you been the assistant director in charge of the New York field office? Since September. Officially since September of 2016. I don't know the exact date. I was named to the office, I believe, in July. So I was appointed to the position, I think it was July, it might have been August, but started in September. Were you promoted in place already in the field office? Sweeney interrupts. No, Baker. Or you came from another? Sweeney. I came from Philadelphia. So I've been in New York once before as the special agent in charge of the counterterrorism division, and then went to Philadelphia as a special agent in charge of the Philadelphia division, and then went back to New York as the assistant director in charge of what we call the ADIC. And so you are a special agent. You have 1811 investigative powers to enforce criminal law, effect arrests, and conduct search warrants, that sort of thing? Correct. And you've been in the FBI for how long, sir? since April of '98. Wow. During your tenure in the New York field office as the assistant director in charge, did you have any occasion to be investigating or have in possession of the New York field office a laptop that was somehow associated to an Anthony Weiner? Yes. And what was the nature of your investigation of the laptop initially? The nature of the investigation initially was crimes against the children investigation run off the violent crime branch that involved Anthony Weiner. And did the review of that laptop by your agents, your investigators, your forensic folks, did that review discover something on the laptop that was not necessarily germane to your initial investigation? Yes. And what was that? Those were emails. Well, what appeared to be emails initially related to Hillary Clinton, a variety of domain names, if you will, initially. Who made this initial discovery? I believe the case agent made the initial discovery. A case agent is what in general terms? So a case agent is a special agent who's assigned to work on an investigation or has an investigation under their purview. They may work it alone. They might work it with a team, another agent, analyst, different positions in the bureau that assist with the case. So the case went against sorry, I'm really sleepy. So the case agent in this case was a special agent. Just real quickly, I worked a total of 24 hours over 2 days this weekend at my rifle club, volunteering for a Scholastic Shooting Association meet. The kids were incredible. Young adults, really. Very, very well behaved and very, very safe with their pew-pew machines. Very safe. Was a delight to watch. I had a great time. But it was very long days. Very long days. Okay. Question. So when this special agent discovered these emails, electronic communications that were not related to what they were initially looking for, did they know about this case that headquarters had mid-year exam? I don't know what he knew at the time. At the time, I don't know if he knew. I'm trying to remember if later he realized from the news. He wasn't involved in the investigation, but if he had learned from the news, it was this investigation, but I can't recall exactly how he would have known that. But contemporaneous with his discoveries of these other emails, he knew, based on what he or she saw, that there was some significance to what they might be, regardless of whether he or she knew about a case being worked. I believe that's correct. And when he or she discovered these emails, what did they do? So I believe they reported it up. He reported it up his chain of command, which would have been a squad supervisor and ultimately to the special at the time, an acting special agent in charge of the criminal investigation, who then reported it to me. So what would your estimation be when the information traveled up the chain of command from the time of discovery by the case agent until it actually reached the top of the New York field office? You. Can you repeat the first part? What was the actual time? From the time that the case agent discovered it, what would estimate your awareness being? What was the time lag? So now I know the time lag to be about, well, I think it was found on the 26th. I was told on the 28th. At the time, I believe I thought it was the 28th. Okay. Summer steps in. Can we just clarify that? Of September? Sweeney. Correct. 26th September 2016, Mr. Baker. But between the time of discovery by the case agent and communication to you, you've indicated, I think, there were intermediate levels of supervisors that he reported it to that he's interrupted. Sweeney, he definitely reported it, so obviously he did not report it to me directly. So it came to me from the actual special agent in charge, so presumably he followed through the chain of command. That's how it got to him. Excuse me. Question. So he probably reported it to his immediate supervisory special agent. Maybe it went to the assistant special agent in charge, then to the SA, acting SAC, and ultimately to you? Correct. And what did you do when you became aware of it? What was your reaction when you became aware of this? Surprise. I reported it to within minutes. And you reported it to who? Sorry, and you reported it to? Didn't have any. To FBI headquarters. Partially by coincidence, I was already on an SVTC, a secure video teleconference, but the acting special agent in charge advised me he needed to tell me something before the end of the day. Okay, I have an SVTC, but there was a pause in the SVTC. What do you have? What is it? Gave me a very quick synopsis of what he had. I jotted a couple of notes down on an index card, which I don't know where that is. They reported that in the SVTC. So the index card has never been found? No. Okay. So this SVTC is a weekly, monthly? It's a weekly, so it was at that time a weekly SVT that occurred every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. It was a two-part process. So there was a weekly SVTC usually. It's called the Director's Weekly SVTC. Breitenbach. I'm sorry. SVT stands for, just for the record, Secure Video Teleconference. Sweeney continues. Weekly SVTC with the director starts at 3 o'clock. All field offices, all SACs, all special agents in charge are on the SVTC. That first part of the SVTC then ends, and the second part is with assistant directors and the 3 ADICs, or assistant directors in charge, who stay behind to do after SVTC. And that's generally the purpose is described as major issues. Finance would have to report something for the assistant director to know about. He continues. The SVT was also pretty. Both SVTs combined is usually done by 3:30ish, but that was every week. Baker, maybe you said this, would the deputy director or director be? So normally, he's interrupted. Normally the director, it's called the director's SVT, weekly SVTC. Normally they're all there. So normally the deputy, director, the EADs, all the assistant directors from headquarters sit in the conference room down here in the Hoover building, and anybody else videos in. If the director is not present for the SVTC, which happens, the deputy director runs the SVTC, or the associate deputy director, depending on who's travel, not who in. Sorry, added a word there. Depending on who's on travel, who's not in. It can vary. The SVT still occurs, it's just a different format now. But on this particular case, the deputy director was there, correct. And the director was not, correct. He was not. So you indicated on the SVTC initially, and that sort of peels away, and that there's a smaller group, and that's the group that you referenced what New York had found out, correct. How many people? You mentioned who they would be. I think I saw the number somewhere, maybe 39 would have been on it. Is it the first one or the peel away? Well, both. So the room at headquarters. So the two-part SVTC. The 3 o'clock SVTC starts. Getting tired of that acronym. Or initialization, depending on where you went to school. In that room, all the assistant directors and a gaggle of other folks, plus all the 56 special agents in charge, and probably assistant special agents in charge, supervisory, intel analysts. It depends on the field office who they bring to the SVTC. When that SVTC ends, all the special agents in charge log off. All the I am really tired, and so I'm basically falling asleep between words sometimes. I'll perk up, don't worry. I mean, tea doesn't affect me, so don't say drink more tea. It doesn't work that way. Caffeine and sugar have no effect on me. At least not anymore. They used to, big time. Um, so I'm just trying to hit the words as best I can. But forgive the lapses. I do hope to do better soon. Okay. When that SVTC ends, all the special agent in charges log off. That's what it says. All the outstations log off. And the folks that are still in the room are the folks that were originally there for the first part. Okay? And those people would potentially also have staff with them that are there taking notes. Would it be just the principals? So usually the only staffers would be the chief of staff for the director if the director was present, special agents to the director, the deputy director, maybe a couple others, but generally I don't think the assistant directors brought staff into the room. I don't remember how many seats there are, but if the director in a normal SVTC, where he might be there, well, who would he bring? Who would his chief of staff be? Sweeney. He would bring his chief of staff, and likely his special agent would sit in, special assistant. Not always. There will be times where somebody would be absent. They were on a travel, they were out. Usually you could see them sitting in the back. Would they specifically be for Director Comey? The persons? Yes. At the time, it would have been Jim Rabicki and 2016, I think Eric Smith by that point. September, I'm not positive about that, but September 2016, I think it was Eric Smith. Who would Mr. McCabe typically have if he were present? So McCabe present would be his special assistant, which was at the time Troy Sowers, I believe. Not positive. Have to check and I don't know if his counsel or any other staffers from his office would sit in. If he were to bring, you can't see the whole group. Sure. If he were to bring a counsel, who would that likely have been? Probably Lisa Page. Okay. Excuse me. So you're on. Okay, so you're on this SVTC, and you're ready to update whether you would normally update, and from New York, and part of this is discovery of something on Mr. Wiener's laptop, not germane to the initial investigation. What do you say, to the best of your recollection? So what I had, I believe, 3 topics. Well, it became the 3 topics once the laptop information was reported to me that I was going to talk about. I believe it was an update on the Chelsea bombing, a heads up on we were hearing about a Russia Times story about the lack of women executives in the Bureau, and then the third thing was the Clinton domain names that were found on the laptop of the Wiener investigation, and the number of emails. So I say emails, but the number of items that looked like they were possible emails, which was 141,000 roughly, and growing. 141,000 emails. Oh, Picasso Knows is signaling me to take a break. I guess I am not doing well. She would know better than anybody. Okay. All right. This is a very short video again, by the way. It's only 114 pages. So I can afford to take some time off and we will be fine. So, tell you what, I'm going to do it right. I did it way too short the last time. I'm going to take a break until noon. I'll be back here at noon, straight up, and we'll finish this sucker. But we'll only have 100 pages to go, so that won't be very long at all. Okay, so thank you, Picasso Notes, for looking out for me, for looking out for the stream, and looking out for our friends to the stream. Very much appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to hit the learning curve outro, and I will see you all at noon Central Time, which is an hour and a half from now. Be there or be square. Thank you.
I hope I learned something. I hope hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny